It's been 2 whole years since the chief cupbearer got his job back. 2 years. Can you imagine Joseph sitting in that Egyptian dungeon? Every time the cell door opened, he probably thought, "This is it. My buddy the cupbearer finally talked to Pharaoh." But nope, just another bowl of prison gruel. But here's the thing about God's timing. It usually feels entirely too slow to us, right up until the exact second it's supposed to happen. And then it moves fast. One night, the most powerful man on the planet, Pharaoh, goes to sleep and has a spectacularly weird dream. He's standing by the Nile River, and out come 7 fat, beautiful cows, just prime rib walking around, grazing in the grass. But then out of the same river come 7 incredibly ugly, scrawny cows. We're talking skin and bones, and right there on the riverbank, the skinny cows eat the fat cows. Gulp. Gone. But the skinny cows don't look any fatter. Pharaoh wakes up in a cold sweat. Right? He manages to fall back asleep, only to have a sequel dream. This time, it's 7 plump, healthy heads of grain growing on a single stalk. Then 7 thin, scorched heads of grain sprout up and swallow the healthy ones. Pharaoh wakes up and he is stressed. The Bible says his mind was troubled, so he calls in all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. Picture a room full of guys with impressive titles, heavy eyeliner, and lots of scrolls. Pharaoh tells them the dreams, and crickets. Nobody has a clue. Right at that moment, the chief cupbearer is standing there pouring Pharaoh's morning coffee, and it hits him like a ton of bricks. He clears his throat. "Hey boss, so today I am reminded of my shortcomings." He basically says, "Remember that time you got mad and threw me in prison? Well, I had a dream, and this young Hebrew slave in there told me exactly what it meant, and it happened exactly like he said. The kid is legit." Boom. Just like that, Pharaoh orders Joseph to be brought to him. They literally pull Joseph out of the dungeon. But you can't stand before Pharaoh smelling like a 2-year prison sentence. So they shave him, give him a fresh change of clothes, and rush him to the throne room. Imagine the scene. Joseph, a 30-year-old former slave and convict, standing in front of the ruler of the known world. Pharaoh looks at him and says, "I had a dream, and nobody can explain it. But I hear that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." Now, this is a massive test of character. Joseph could have easily hyped himself up. He could have said, "Yes, Your Majesty, I am quite the dream expert. Let's talk salary." Instead, Joseph deflects all the glory. He looks at Pharaoh and says, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Pharaoh tells him the dreams about the cows and the grain. Joseph listens, nods, and drops the truth bomb. The dreams are one and the same. God is giving you a heads up on what he's about to do. Joseph explains that the 7 fat cows and plump grain mean 7 years of massive record-breaking prosperity in Egypt. But the skinny cows and scorched grain represent 7 years of a famine so severe, it will literally make everyone forget the good years. But Joseph doesn't just drop heavy news and walk away. He instantly switches into strategy mode. He says, "Look, here's what you need to do. You need to find a really wise, discerning man and put him in charge of the whole country. During the 7 good years, take a 5th of the harvest and store it all in the cities. That way, when the famine hits, your country won't starve." Pharaoh and all his officials are standing there, probably with their jaws on the floor. The plan is brilliant. Pharaoh looks around at his staff and says, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" He looks back at Joseph and says, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." Just let that sink in. When the sun came up that morning, Joseph was a forgotten prisoner. By lunchtime, he was the 2nd most powerful man in Egypt. Pharaoh takes his signet ring off his own finger and puts it on Joseph. He dresses him in fine linen, puts a gold chain around his neck, and gives him the second-in-command chariot. Everywhere Joseph rides, people run ahead shouting for others to bow. Pharaoh even gives him an Egyptian wife, Asenath. Joseph gets right to work. He spends the next 7 years traveling the country, collecting so much grain they stop keeping track of it. It becomes like the sand of the sea. During this time, God blesses Joseph with 2 sons. He names the first Manasseh, saying God has made him forget all his trouble in his father's household. Not that he lost his memory, but the pain no longer controlled him. He names the second Ephraim, saying God has made him fruitful in the land of his suffering. Then, just as God said, the 7 years of plenty end. The famine begins, and it is severe. It is not just in Egypt, it spreads everywhere. When the Egyptians cry out for food, Pharaoh simply tells them, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." Joseph opens the storehouses and feeds the nation. In fact, people from all over the world come to Egypt to buy grain from him. It's an amazing story. It reminds us that no matter how dark the situation gets or how long we feel forgotten, God is always working behind the scenes. He is always writing the story. And when he moves with purpose.